with Gulf Coast football coach Jack Wright after a long bus ride back to Perkinston. We normally do this afterwards, after the game on the field, but conditions, as the folks will see from the highlights coming up over us, were a little intense tonight. What was it like out there coaching in the rain and the slop tonight?
I was optimistic the whole first quarter and the first half. You know, the weather kind of held off, and then it came in on us there late second quarter, and that's also just having finished watching the film. That's also kind of where our play got kind of sloppy too. So it definitely affected things, but you got to overcome some things. The weather's always one of those things. It seems like you don't have any control over, but you got to push through.
What do you take away from that win tonight?
Just that it's a win. I've never really had a bad one, just to be honest with you. This league is hard. I've been in it for 9 years. There haven't been a lot of easy wins, and so going to Coahoma, getting on the bus, driving 5 hours up through the Delta, and winning a football game, that's no small accomplishment.
Right after the game, we talked a little bit about the defense and how well they played. What did you think they did tonight that was so effective for y'all?
They just they took Coahoma out of their rhythm. You know, I think only once on the night was Coahoma actually able to put a few positive plays together. If you look at the times they moved the football, it seemed like there was a pass interference penalty or maybe a special teams mistake that put them in position to have a short drive or something like that. Really, there was no rhythm to their offense. I think that's just a tribute to our defense making it hard on those guys getting a beat on them and being disruptive.
Speaking of that, they were 1 of 11 on third down conversions, 0 for 1 on fourth. You've got a safety on defense, got a defensive touchdown, so they weren't just stopping them, they were contributing on the scoreboard too.
That's right. I mean, if you look at the way we're built over there, we got a lot of good athletes. There's a lot of guys that can change direction and react. If they do happen to make a mistake, they're good enough athletes to make up for it, and it doesn't result in, a huge play. So I really like the way that we're built over there as far as the athleticism. It's kind of comforting to look out there and know that we've got some guys that can run and chase the ball.
And despite all the rain and all that, I think both of your interceptions were in the second half, I think, when it was really sloppy. So you've got some guys who can catch the ball on the defensive side too.
Yeah, one thing that kind of we laughed about as a staff from last week is not having any turnovers. We just played well on both sides of the ball and won that game big, but with no help from turnovers. Tonight we needed that help. We needed to get those turnovers, and you're right. That was kind of the luxury of getting up a little bit there around the halftime period. Right before halftime, that puts a little more pressure on them to make a play. They did a couple of times, but then over the course of that process, they gave us a couple.
About 240 yards of total offense. We allowed 11 first downs, so overall a good night. Because you did get a little bit of a lead, the game did take a little longer, it felt like, because they were throwing it just about every down. Another aspect of the game was special teams. You got a safety on a snap over the punter's head. You got a blocked punt, and so you were able to kind of steal some possessions from them that way.
Yeah, and also, Mason played really well too. It's first time for him to be able to get out and punt. So I think we won that. We won the special teams battle tonight. That kind of tilted in our favor. And that anytime you win 2 out of 3, I think you're gonna have a chance to win.
I think Mason averaged about 44 yards a punt. They averaged something like 23, 24, 25, something. So that's 18 yards every kick exchange that you're winning in those yards. That's essentially 2 first downs on every drive.
Yeah, I've been super pleased with Mason throughout the course of me being here. I mean, he's a kid that works hard. I think he's the best punter in the MACJC this year. I haven't seen everybody, but it'd be hard-pressed to find one better. Good kid from right here in Stone County, comes to work every single day, and he produced for us tonight.
A lot of times you don't talk about a long snapper until they do something bad, but there weren't any bad snaps tonight, and it was terrible in the second half. A lot of slop, a lot of reasons why he couldn't have snapped well, but Richard Landry did a good job.
Yeah, Richard Landry from D'Iberville has been a really solid deep snapper for us in the first 2 games, and hope he continues that throughout the year.
Offensively, you guys ran for 222 yards. You were able to move the ball running, not quite so much passing. What did you see on that side of the ball?
Give Coahoma credit. I mean, they made some adjustments from last week to this week, and also during the course of the game that made their defense a lot better. Just kind of tough for us to get a beat on the sideline, figuring out, kind of where to go next. So really looking back at it on the bus ride home, just give them some credit. They have some really good athletes on defense. There were some long bodies over there that could get after the quarterback, and then when our quarterbacks took some hits. And so give them credit. They played a really good game on that side of the ball. Did we get sloppy at some point? Yeah, and we're going to kind of go back in and break that down and find out the real reasons for that and try to fix those.
As I mentioned, ran for 222 yards. Terrion Avery had 89 of those, scored 3 touchdowns. The average almost 6 yards a run, but you still got a good mix of guys contributing on that side of the ball too. Austin Bolton had a long touchdown run. I
had a really good feeling in training camp about our running back group. I just don't feel like there's a ton of fall off from anybody. Sometimes when you have a group of 2 or 3, one of them does this well and not the other well. Those 3 guys, really, there's not a ton of difference in their games. They're all a little shorter. I'm not going to say smaller because they're put together, but they're all the little short, power-packed running backs. They all catch the ball well. They all block well. They're all students of the game, and so I feel good about having those 3.
You got some good speed back there too. Maybe not the electrifying speed, but when they get in the open, they can make some people miss and do some damage that way too. We saw that on Austin's run. We're only a few hours after the game, but I'm sure you're already thinking about next week. Holmes went down to Ellisville last week or last night and beat Jones. What are you expecting to see from Holmes this week?
They'll be a hard-nosed physical football team. Played, Coach Kuntz and his program multiple times. They're not going to make a lot of mistakes. They'll be disciplined. We'll have to go down there and earn a victory. They're not going to give us anything cheap. Should be a fantastic game.
They do a few things differently on offense that I'm sure you'll have to get ready for this week too. Run a little triple option, don't they? They
run the triple option, so we'll have to switch gears, get started looking at that and see what problems they present. It's a new coordinator. The coordinator that was there running that for Holmes last year has moved on now as the head coach at Southwest, and we'll meet him later. But right now, anytime there's a new coordinator, there's going to be some new wrinkles and a new personality behind the play call. So it'll be interesting this week throughout the course of preparation to kind of see how we choose to defend that.
You're 2-0. You can't do much better than that. Congratulations.
Thank you.